when you're asleep. They're just getting started. John Romano, Dave Palumbo, After Hours.
It's that time again. It's After Hours, and I'm Dave Palumbo, and I am joined by John Romano. And John, it's just, I think, you and I today, unless Jimmy the Bull happens to chime in from his Earl delivery job.
Dragging them hoses.
He's so fun. He doesn't even know how funny he is. He's absolutely hysterical. I laugh so hard when Jimmy tells stories. He's just got a unique way of describing his, the absurdity of his life,
Because the worst of any possible scenario, the absolute worst case is his best case. Is what. It's like the hose has to go through the dog shit, and the dog shit has to be frozen.
Right. But you know what the funny thing is? That back in the day, before I knew him, probably when you knew him, he would go crazy and beat everyone up. Nowadays he just kind of like takes it like a whipping boy.
Oh my God! When he was a bouncer, and Jimmy Quinn has some great stories about this, because they bounced in some bar together, and they said Jimmy's night off, he used to come to the bar, because he could drink for free. And Jimmy Quinn said after one beer, you had to follow him around. Bodies would be flying, and the fight started.
He's so mellow now. He's like an old grandfather now, compared to that.
Remember that story he told when he went to the DMV and this guy cut the line?
Oh, I know. Back in the day, he would have thrown the guy out the fucking window,
But he said he's got the guy on the ground, and he was aggravated because he was trying to stomp on him.
Oh, right. Oh, that story, yeah.
I couldn't get a good stomp.
Yeah, those are the good days.
I know. Now he's a pussy. Now he's like a teddy bear. He's just like a pushover.
Absolutely. Well, Greg Valentino's at the doctor today, so he'll be back on next week. Actually, we have someone coming on next week who actually has bounced at every major club in the city, and they know he's going to tell us all these inside stories about Craig Titus and all the club guys. All the incidents that Mike Matarazzo beating someone up after Night of Champions. He's got a whole bunch of cool stories that he's going to tell. Probably next week he's going to come on the show. I'm glad because Greg was going to miss this week, so he canceled too. So both of them will be back next week. Jimmy, in 2 weeks, I think he's done with the Earl delivery job. I think he's going back to driving his truck, in which case he'll have, when he drives the truck, he goes to the job, he sits there all day. So he can be on the show all day if he wanted to after that.
Probably. Or he could just pull over to the side of the road while a tire falls off or something.
Now, John, I'm sure you've heard by now, Scott Milne, Canadian super freak, super heavyweight bodybuilder, also known as the Canadian Moose, has died. From what I'm hearing, it was heart attack. He was still a pretty big guy, even at 46 years old. I told this to Aceto, and he said, tell Romano, because you always say, where are all the bodies? Are we seeing the bodies now, John, from the offenses that were done earlier, or is it a body weight thing that people are just not, as they're getting older, they're not checking their health signs and they're not taking care of themselves?
Where is it written that if you become a bodybuilder, you are thus invincible for any malady that could befall life and should live forever without a single thing wrong ever happening to you?
Yeah.
I mean, people die of heart attacks.
Right, but do you think we're seeing more heart attacks of these guys that are these 300-pound guys, 300-plus pound guys that maybe are not, as they're getting older, downsizing a little bit and they're staying too heavy too long?
But I don't think that's fair to pigeonhole bodybuilding in that regard. Anybody that's 300
pounds.
Well,
football players would fall into that regard too, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's got. But the reason I'm saying this is because now there's a groundswell forming right now on GetBig.com about how it's going to be all. I'm just assuming that because that's where most of the idiots reside. Is that it's all steroids? It's the drugs. It's could it have been partially involved? It's not the steroids, it's the size of his body and the fact that he was probably cardiovascularly not in shape, and his diet was probably inconsistent with, where it should have been for a guy his age. Yeah, you're supposed to downsize. I think after, your late 40s, early 50s, it's time to tone it down. You're not going to, there's no 85-year-old 300-pound guys.
No.
They don't exist.
I don't think steroids cause heart disease and early death. I think steroids facilitate the ability to be that big, which can then stress the body and the heart out and then cause problems, I think is what's happening. And I think people don't realize that, over 40, you really shouldn't be holding that much weight on your body. It's a tremendous strain on your heart. And if you're not going to the doctor and checking out if you have an arrhythmia or if you have a blockage in your coronary arteries or if you just have a weak heart, then, you wouldn't even know anything was wrong. And I think a lot of people put their head in the sand. And, every time someone dies, we talk about this, and more people luckily go out and get cardiac CTs and get echocardiograms and they check themselves out. But I don't think we can say it enough. It's unfortunate that we have to see guys, really good guys, dying young, and there has to be some correlation between body weight and early death. I believe it,
Well, there is, and bodybuilding lifestyle is at that level, combined with drugs and whatever to keep that size up. It's the size, the family history, the diet, and the activity level. Yeah. That's what's contributing to the heart attack. You cannot pigeonhole steroids and say, oh, it's the drugs' fault. Yeah. It's being a bodybuilder. But at the same time, don't put that as a more nefarious path to follow than anybody else who's overweight and bad diet and not getting any cardiovascular exercise.
Right, but you know why they target the bodybuilder, John? Because we're supposed to be healthy. You know what I mean? We look healthy. So when you see a healthy guy drop, it must be from steroids rather than the fact that they're just, once again, they're too heavy. As opposed to a fat guy dropping of a heart attack, it's because he eats too much McDonald's. That's that. And he doesn't exercise. But exercise does not save your heart. It seems. I think people think, oh, if I exercise and I do my cardio, I'll never get a heart attack. Not true. Not true.
Family history is a huge factor in there, and lifestyle factors, family history, all of that plays a role. But it's unfortunate that anybody dies, especially a bodybuilder, because you're right. We're supposed to be these bastions of good health and fitness. But the reality is, a lot of these big guys lift weights. They don't break a sweat. They're not doing cardio and taxing their cardiovascular system and building it up. They're just lifting weights. Yep. And while that adds a certain amount of condition, it's not a whole hell of a lot. So I mean, you could squat 600 pounds and then climb a flight of stairs and be gagging for air.
Right. But you know what? I'll give you myself as an example. I started cycling, for a while. And I was cycling at a very high level right away because I had been a long distance runner. It was like muscle memory. And that's when I was getting, my heart was throwing weird rhythms. And that's when I discovered I had an arrhythmia that I didn't even know of. So the doctor said to me, why are you cycling at such a high level? Well, that's what I do. I exercise. I have to go all out. He said, not at 50 years old, you don't have to go all out. Or whatever I was, 46 at the time. There's no for what reason? Are you competing? I said, no. He's like, you're not, exercise at the elite level is not healthy, he said. That's what I think, I missed that too. Exercise at the elite level is not healthy. Going out and doing, your cardio during the day, at a moderate pace, that's healthy. Exercising at an elite level, okay, I'm going to keep saying it because it has to sink in. Bodybuilding at an elite level, not healthy. Bodybuilding for health and well-being and for strength and feeling good, healthy. And I think that's where the disconnect is. As bodybuilders, we're extremists, so we think if you don't go to the gym and squat as much weight as you possibly can, you're not doing a workout, right? Isn't that the old mentality? So guys are still pushing too hard, I think at an older age is what it is.
And the mentality is it's hard to pull back. I mean, I promised myself when I turned 50 I was going to start pulling it back, and it wasn't until I was 55 that I finally lost 30 pounds and started taking it seriously. So yeah, it's hard to do psychologically. It's hard to do. I mean, think about why we built this muscle in the first place. It's hard to give it back, and not only is it hard to give it back, but it's hard to accept the fact that it is at the elite level not healthy. So because we believe everything at the elite level is elite. Right. So health included, but it's not. When you get older, especially at my age and beyond, you got to pace yourself, man. You got to be kind to the equipment. You got to pay attention, much more close attention to the signals your body is giving you, and pay attention. And
people say, what can I do about it? And there's really simple things. There's only really 3 things that can go wrong with your heart, really 2, but I'll put a third in there just because I have a third. You could have an arrhythmia, right? I mean, your heart might just not beat it might beat unsynced or out of sync, in which case you want to address that. A lot of times they'll give you a beta blocker to keep your heart rate from going too high and going into an irregular beat. You could have a blockage in your coronary arteries, which is the blood supply to your heart, which you can tell if you go for a cardiac CT. You don't have to go for an invasive angiogram anymore. They just put you in a CT machine, and they'll be able to visualize the vessels of your heart and see if they're blocked. And if they are, you can get a stent. That's something you can address. And, you know, the aorta is another aspect. I have actually an enlarged aorta. I didn't even know it. I went for a cardiac CT, and they said, oh, your vessels are perfectly clear, but your aorta is enlarged. So now I have to constantly go back every 6 months, or actually once a year now, and they see if it's gotten bigger. Because if it gets bigger, you know, I'm at risk of it dissecting or opening up, and then obviously you can die from that. So, you know, at some point I might need it fixed. I don't know. So I'm keeping an eye on it. But these are things that can go wrong with the heart. If you're aware of all those things and you get regular tests, echocardiogram, see functioning, how your heart is beating, how it's pumping blood, the cardiac CT every couple of years to see how your vessels are, and then, you know, and that also will visualize the aorta and the other vessels, the descending aorta as well. You'll know if you're cardiovascularly going to have an incident or not. You know, if you put your head in the sand and don't even think about it, you could just wind up dead. And so I implore people to go out there and get your echocardiograms on a yearly basis, get the cardiac CT every couple of years, just for peace and soundness of mind, you know what I mean? And this way you know what's going on. You'll know if you have a problem or not. You know, I never had, you know, high cholesterol my whole life, John. I always had low HDLs from taking anabolics, but I never had high LDLs, and that's probably why I have no blockages, you know? Other people just genetically have high LDL and low HDL, and they wind up with blockages because it's in their family. It's family history. So you got to keep an eye on that type of stuff. I'm actually very nervous because, you know what, I want to go. I haven't gotten a colonoscopy yet. I'm going to be 52 in 2 weeks, and I should have probably gotten one at 50. So I want to go. That's the one test I haven't gotten, and I think everyone. What is that? At 50 normally you get a colonoscopy. Yep. Have you gotten one?
And then every 10 years, unless you had polyps, and then it's every 5.
Did you have one?
Yep. I had 2.
Oh, you did. Were you clear?
Yeah, well, I had polyps.
Oh, you did have polyps. Wow.
I had 7 of them. Yeah, they took them out. And then the second one I came, I didn't have no polyps. Oh, so, good. Yeah. So, but you go to the aorta. There's a couple of studies that were. I think when you find out, you know, there's studies done on this stuff, and you fall into that category, that you should pay attention to this stuff. But there was a study recently, maybe about 5 years ago, that showed a correlation between strenuous lifting, power lifters and big bodybuilders in the aorta, and how the inside of the aorta separates, you know, from the outside, and enlargement. It's pretty common.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
It was because if you're bearing down and straining, like a lot of guys hold their breath, you're supposed to exhale, and it's common to, when you're straining against a heavy weight, to not exhale, to hold your breath. Or
I used to hold my breath when I squatted like 700 pounds. I did, yeah. Sure.
And that's what does it. You're just holding your breath. You get the belt squeezed in, and then, you know, you go down, and all that pressure is pushing on your aorta, because your heart's pounding to get you out of the hole.
So what did they say was the solution? Was that something that needed to be fixed?
So some of them, the ones that actually show signs of beginning to separate, need to be fixed. Right. And others, like you said, you pay attention, you know, and make sure it's not getting any worse or any bigger. But unless you change your lifting style and calm down, it's going to get worse, and it's going to explode. You can literally blow that O-ring, as the saying goes.
The funny thing is that mine didn't enlarge until it enlarged like recently. I don't even lift heavy weights anymore.
It gets weaker. You weaken it over time, and then
that's what I did. Yeah.
As you get older, you get even weaker, and then the weakness manifests itself.
Now when I go to pick my daughter up, I'm always afraid to hold my breath. I'm always afraid my aorta's gonna dissect or something like that. You know.
I teach everybody that when they're training, when you let that weight down and start pushing it back up, you better be exhaling, especially in heavy moves like leg presses, squats, benches, deadlifts. You need to exhale. Do not hold your breath.
Yeah.
If you guys are holding your breath, especially with a belt on cinched up, to the tightest setting, you're asking for trouble. Yeah. Do not hold your breath. On the way down, start exhaling. Exhale a little stronger when you hit the bottom or you get in the hole, and then exhale on the way out. Learn how to breathe. Take your air in on the way down and exhale on the way up. Do not hold your breath. And that even helps contain the big gut when you exhale and you stop pushing against the belt and pushing your abs out like that. So,
well, I think a lot of us want to lift heavier weight so that we will figure out any way to lift a heavier weight, and I think that's what happens. If you have strong abdominal muscles, which I know I had at the time, you push against that belt and you can lift a lot more weight. I mean, let's face it.
And you can push more than your aorta can stand.
Yeah, evidently. Luckily, I mean, look what happened to Chris Dim. Chris Dim's dissected while he was actually training, and almost died. They repair the ascending aorta, and then the descending one was showing signs of weakening, and so that's when they went in and operated on that, and that's when he became paralyzed. That's the scary, thing.
Yeah, that was scary.
Have you seen recently? He's been crawling, actually.
He's got that thing on it. He's doing much better.
Yeah.
I'm glad we made the noise we did about that because it raised some awareness, and I think that was good. I'm glad to see him. He's a fighter, man. He's still fighting.
He says he's going to walk. He's convinced of it.
He will. He will. Yeah. You watch. He will.
I know he's been going to Mexico for all those crazy stem cells. They've been. The guy's got more stem cells being pumped into his body than probably 100 people have in their lifetime, So
that shit works.
If it works, it works. It's interesting. I was reading an article about stem cells and watching a video on it. They have like these cells now that actually activate the stem cells. So they're finding that it's not the actual stem cells that are as important or how many you put in, but it's the other things that go along with the stem cells that actually activate the stem cells and kind of guide them and tell them what to do. I'm blocking out what the name of them is, but that's the new therapy now. So if they thought before you needed 100 million stem cells, now you don't need as many, but you need these assistory cells that are found with them that kind of activate the stem cells, which is interesting. I always said, look, you know what? I don't think we got it right yet. I think stem cells are the future of regeneration, but I don't think we know how to make them work properly yet. Because if we did, it would be conventional medicine by now, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
yet it's still being done in Mexico.
Stem cell ace.
Twin had the first product that stimulates stem cells.
Right.
So, but I do know a guy in Miami who had his knee. He needed a knee replacement, bone on bone, no cartilage, and he went to some voodoo Miami doctor, and they injected stem cells in there, and lo and behold, he grew cartilage and didn't need the replacement.
Now, this is what I hear about the stem cells, right there, what they're getting the results. The people who are getting good results, like knees and a couple shoulder guys, usually it's knees that people are doing it on. The amount of tissue that it lays down, that it puts on the articulating surface of the knee is so, you almost can't see it in a microscope. It's so thin, but it's just enough to give it a little layer of lubrication. So I don't know how long it lasts, the results. It definitely gives relief from what I've talked to, like another person, another bodybuilder actually who had it done, but I don't think it's a long-term solution at this point.
I don't know long term. This was over 5 years ago, and he's still
good.
He's still good, and he said his doctor wants him to come back in a year or two and get another course of it done, just to play it safe. But he says he's fine, and he cycles. He stopped lifting. He doesn't lift heavy leg work anymore.
Well, that's probably why it lasted, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but cycling. I mean, he cycles 5-10 miles a day, which is not a ton, but it's still
that's a lot of wear and tear.
It's a good workout. I believe in that shit, man. There's I've seen and heard too many cases where that works. Yeah. And it's logical why it works. But I agree with you. It's the management of the protocol that needs to be more heavily investigated.
They're still perfecting it. They haven't got. I think within 10 years they're going to have it down pretty well. And I think it's going to be standard procedure now. Hey, when you reach this level of arthritis, you go for the stem cells. We give you this much. We add this much treatment with it. We stimulate it with this UV light or whatever whatever they figure out works, and we give you a shot of growth hormone, and then you're better. So within 50 years it'll probably be perfected. I mean, but by the time Elon Musk has a colony on Mars, it'll be perfected. You heard that, right? 2050.
The lower gravity will help too.
Yeah, I was talking about it with the seat. I said no bodybuilder will move to Mars because you can't build muscle on Mars.
No, they all will because they'll be able to bench press 4,000 pounds.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think there's enough on a 24-hour basis. There's not enough gravity on the body to hold that mass. That's the problem. You got to go like to Jupiter or something like that if you want to. That's what'll happen. People will go to Jupiter to train. People go to Colorado like to train for cycling. People go to Jupiter to put on some muscle for bodybuilding and come back to Earth to compete. And
compete on Mars. They'll be huge.
They'll be like those cheaters. They fucking went to Jupiter. We have to check their visas now and see if they went to Jupiter to cheat. And put on extra muscle mass. You squat you squat 40 pounds on Jupiter, and it's like you squatted 1,000 pounds on Earth.
That's right. They'll do it. That's what they'll be shifting them all around.
Blackman will have a schmo camp on Jupiter. He'll invest in.
Because the glutes will be more striated.
All you have to do is wide stance, just a bar. That's it. It's plenty. And you got to do like I do. You got to squeeze at the bottom. You got to squeeze like I do. Like I do at the bottom. You got to squeeze.
Oh my God. There's certain little vignettes of him that I will never forget as long as I live. Him sitting in front of Billy Smith. 350-pound Billy Smith telling him, yeah, you got to squeeze like I do. Like 120-pound Bleckman. You got to squeeze with fucking piano teeth. You got to squeeze like I do.
Billy Smith downsized, right? He became a normal human being.
Every sane person I know in this business has downsized when they got older.
Jimmy Quinn downsized too. Yeah.
The ones that didn't died.
I know. That's why I brought it up earlier with the Scott Milne situation. I couldn't believe he was still so big. Greg Kovacs too.
You could probably count on one hand the number of 50, 55-year-old guys that are still pushing 250 shredded.
I know. I'm scared for them. I really am.
Yeah.
Now I work with a lot of masters guys. And I make them get their blood work, and I make them go for echocardiogram. I'm constantly on top of them with health and stuff like that because I am scared for them because I don't want them. And most of these guys are not humongous guys, so that's also a savior. Like I think the reason why Dexter Jackson has had such longevity in bodybuilding is because he's not one of those 280-pound guys, And he never was, and he never will be, and that's why he's got longevity in the sport, I think, and in life. He probably has great genetics anyway, just for health purposes, but he doesn't lift crazy heavy. He knows what he needs to do to maintain his physique, and if he needs to push a little bit for a couple, 6 weeks, to put a little size on, he does that, and then he, gets ready for a show. So he's got the process down pat, But aside from him, not many people can do what he does, No.
He doesn't train very long either. Only trains for like an hour.
Yeah. But he takes care of himself too. He goes to the doctor, gets blood work done. He gets his massages, and he's living the life. He still lives the bodybuilding lifestyle, except he's got the wisdom of an older person. So he knows where he should go and where he shouldn't go, and I think that's what makes him a good role model for people. If you do want to lift weights and be a bodybuilder into your later years, take a page out of Dexter's handbook.
And he's listening to older, smart guys like Charles Glass, who are, been around the block. So you look, the take-home message here, guys, is you got to be smart about this. When you get older, you cannot act like a kid. You will die. And if you don't die, you'll hurt yourself because it's just not feasible. Not only is it not feasible, it's not necessary. Yeah. You worked your ass off your whole life so that you could cruise when you're older, I mean, come on. Doesn't it take you so much less effort now to maintain, good condition and physique than it did, 25 years ago?
Absolutely. And I was just telling these people this, I think it was maybe on the radio show. I have been off drugs, nothing, not even HRT for 5 years now, okay? Feel good. I had 2 shoulders done, obviously. I missed a lot of time in the gym, plus the babies being born. So I don't really go to the, maybe I go to the gym once every 2 weeks, but we built a little something in my house. But I really couldn't lift heavy or do anything because I was rehabbing the shoulder. And they don't want you to do it for 3 months. There's no weight training after shoulder. I had 2 done consecutively, a year apart. So I've just really gotten back to starting to lift, and my strength is finally coming back, and I'm growing. I'm putting muscle on. I added an extra protein shake before bed now because I usually train at night above and beyond what I was eating, and I've been adding muscle back to my body, and I see it and I'm not lifting heavy. I'm not lifting for a long time. I'm not eating a ridiculous amount of food, but the muscle comes back because it's got memory. I don't need drugs to stimulate it. It's coming back. All I have to do is put some weight training under my belt, and I will build back a physique that I'm happy with. I wasn't happy with obviously after I lost all that muscle from not being able to work out because I like to train, but I don't need to be 250 pounds anymore to be happy. And I think you have to set different goals for yourself as you get older.
And that is a tough pill to swallow. Yeah. For us, And I mean, I only lost 40 pounds. You lost what, 130, 115? I mean, a lot.
It took a long time, but I did it over a long period of time.
Yeah.
I stopped in 04. I started downsizing. So what was that? How many years ago was 04? 16 years ago?
16 years ago.
All right. So over 16 years, I've lost, 100 and what was it, 280. So I'm like about 100 pounds. So that's that's not that much weight every year. It's little by little. I bring it down. I bring it down. I bring it down. And I'm also since when you don't take any kind of HRT or any kind of anabolics, you don't hold any water. I know, at least in my body, I don't hold any water. I'm very dry all the time. Matter of fact, I'm maybe too dry sometimes. So you can hold 15, 20 pounds of water when you're that big. So I probably only lost 80 pounds really, if you think about it. And it was done over a very long period of time, and that's the way to do it. If you lose it too drastically, you feel the loss of strength, you feel the loss of energy, you don't feel good. It's too much. It's got to be done gradually.
It took me like 5 years to lose the 40 pounds.
That's perfect. Perfect.
But I'm still on HRT. I'm not going off of that.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think HRT is good if you don't produce anything anymore. My levels are at about 500. And they go up and down a little bit. That's good. I think it's a good level. I don't want my testosterone too high, to be honest with you. I don't like all the side effects that come along with it.
I went off because I changed doctors. I had to go off so he could write me a script so he could see that my levels were under 300. I went off for a month. When I got the blood work done after a month, it was 64.
Yeah, that's too low. That's actually bad for your health to be that low.
Yeah, of course. So, 250 milligrams a sip a week, that takes good care. But I don't hold any water on that. I'm dry as a bone. And like you said, sometimes even too dry.
Yeah, but you don't eat a lot of carbs though. That's why also,
No, I don't eat a lot, and I drink constantly. I'm constantly guzzling water.
Yeah, I'm terrible. I'm drinking coffee all the time. I don't know why, or decaf coffee, but still.
You know what? I drink coffee all morning long till about noon. I drink probably 6 cups of coffee.
Oh, you do? All right.
Oh, yeah.
And you switch?
Then I switch to water.
I can't drink at night. I can't stand waking up every 2 hours and peeing. It drives me crazy. Do you do that?
I wake up about every 3 hours. Yeah.
Drives me nuts. I hate it.
But I only sleep 6 hours, so I only get up twice.
I only sleep 4 hours, but sometimes I'll wake up every hour. It depends.
Yeah. No, some days are bad. Some days are bad.
And it's not like I can't. Some people wake up because they can't pee because they got prostate enlargement problems. I pee. I clear my bladder out. I think my body gets rid of all the fluid at night. It's weird. It's always been that way for me though.
Do you eat later at night?
Yeah. I do notice if I don't eat late at night, because I work out at night, so I can't go to bed with no food in my, with eating nothing after training. So I'll have like a shake. Then I do my fiber. So yeah, I'm getting probably 10, 12 ounces, which is what's causing me to pee at night. I know that's the case, but
yeah. I pretty much don't eat for like the first half of the day. I just don't. It's like intermittent fasting, but I'm just listening to me. I'm not hungry because
I do it in the middle of the day too. Dad, do you have any prostate issues at your age? You're almost 60.
Yeah. No, it's enlarged, but it doesn't. I pee fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. I just pee often because I'm always drinking.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the prostate being enlarged. Some people actually, their prostate's so enlarged that it actually will narrow off the urethra area, and so they can't get the pee out. It like dribbles out of them. Luckily, I don't have that. My father had that, but I've been on Finasteride. I take a DHT blocker. I've been on that since for 15, 17, almost 20 years. I've been on that.
Yeah, you've been taking that a long time.
Just for I did it for hair loss initially, but I always say to myself, you know what? It probably won't grow any hair, but I'll protect my prostate because my father had an enlarged. He didn't have anything, like cancer or anything like that, but he had an enlarged prostate where he had to have that procedure where they kind of, open it up a little bit. And I never wanted to go through that. And so luckily I haven't had any, knock on wood, I haven't had any problems. But that's another thing that as you get a little older, you got to check out your prostate,
It's not the nicest feeling in the world when the doctor sticks his finger up there, but you got to do it,
There's a lot of guys, though, I know that are on anabolics that in their 40s and 50s that have prostate problems. And
I know a bunch for sure.
Because you got to watch your DHT levels. Those testosterone not only converts to estrogen, it converts to DHT. And DHT is great when you're young, right? Because of sex drive, you develop secondary sex characteristics as a man. But not good when you get older because you get hair loss and you get prostate enlargement and, it can cause acne and stuff like that. So you really want to manage that. I usually put people on my Testolize product from Species Nutrition. That kind of blunts the DHT production. But if you have severely very high DHT, you might need to take finasteride or real prescription drugs.
And these are all things you will never know unless you get your blood work done.
Gotta get those blood work done, exactly. I mean, I can't stress that enough. That along with getting your heart checked out, it's not that hard, John. It's not that many things you have to do. You get your blood work every 6 months to a year done. You get your cardiac, echocardiogram every year. And then you go for your cardiac CT every 5 years. Just put it on your schedule. And I guess I got to add to my schedule the colonoscopy. At 50, and if I have nothing, I guess I get to wait to 60, right? Is that how it works?
And get prostate checked every year.
Prostate, yeah. I had never had a doctor stick his finger up my butt. Maybe they don't like my butt. I don't know. I never had my prostate checked. They just said, "Do you have any problems peeing?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Okay."
Yeah, it'd be nice if they bought you dinner first. But look, you know what? I got this doctor who's like, I can't explain. He's just the most pasty, normal kind of nerdy guy. He's like almost a robot, Yeah. So it's like. Yeah, and he's really good at it. Look.
You're older though. Maybe because you're older, they did a prostate exam on you.
Well, when you're over 50 and you're on HRT, you should be getting your prostate checked every year. You just should. Right. The chance of something happening. I mean, it's more than likely going to be enlarged. That's a given. Yeah. How enlarged it is, and if you have lumps on it or whatever, that's when you gotta pay attention.
They say that they did like an autopsy, I guess, of people that like over the age of 80. They said like almost like 90% of men had prostate cancer. Did you know that? Matter of fact, if you get prostate cancer over the age of 80, they don't even treat it.
No, they said if you live, I've read numerous times in the literature that if you live long enough, you'll eventually die of prostate cancer.
Really?
Well, because it's a very slow moving, cancer, and the collateral damage it causes, when it gets, full blown is pretty bad. But it's years and years before it gets there. You'll die of something else before you'll ever die of prostate cancer.
If you get it later in life, not when you get it earlier. Like I didn't Bob Chicarilla, I think, had prostate cancer, didn't he? I think he had his prostate removed. I thought that's what I heard. Yeah, I never asked him about that.
Wayne D'Amelia did, and I think Wayne did. Yeah, I think Bob Bonham had something.
You're right. Bob did have. You're right. Yeah, he beat that too. Yeah.
But if you're over 50, getting close to 60, and you don't have it, you're probably not going to get it, and that's another family history thing also, that you got to pay attention to. But look, getting older requires you do a little more maintenance. And you know what? Look at these poor women. They got to get their vagina invaded every couple of years with a fucking tool and a light and shit. All we got to do is get the finger stuck up there, far less frequently. So
unless you like it, like someone we might know.
Well, Bleckman runs for a prostate exam. I think he gets one every week.
Yeah, you can't be too careful.
Except he wants Michael Hearn to give him a prostate checkup.
Yeah, he's got an invitation list to see who needs to go into prostate screening training so that he can have his pick of the litter.
There you go. Right. Well, anyway, I know you have a what do you have, a meeting today?
Yes, I have a meeting, a sales meeting.
Yeah. Now you're what are you at? What's your official title over there at Gaspari?
After March 15th, my official title will be marketing director.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Richie's one of the dinosaurs that lasted. You know, there's not a lot.
Yeah.
Some of his supplements are like 20 years old that he's still has. You know, legacy brand. So. He's a great company, and he's an innovator. He likes cool new shit, and he's fun to work with. So, and it's, look, bottom line is he's a legend, and that creates a lot of interesting inroads, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, you wouldn't have to move, would you, for that job? Okay.
I ain't moving anywhere. This estate we live on now is
You built that whole house. It's amazing what you did to that house. It's crazy.
And outside the pool, I'm building decks now. I had to fucking build a retaining wall over the weekend. It's always something. We had landscaping going on. We had the what are we getting done now? New gutters we're putting up.
I want to build a wall around my house. I said the only person I know who I would trust to build the wall and that wouldn't cost me like a bloody fortune would be John Romano. I said. He can build, because in Florida you can't do anything with wood or anything. Everything has to be like cement. Cement. I said John can build us a wall around this whole, like a fortress. I said it would be great. I said it would be like Jurassic Park. I said.
But you know what you can do all on your own that won't cost something, but it won't be a major construction. You got to wait. You got to be patient.
What?
But there's cypress trees.
Yeah.
If you plant these cypress trees 6 feet apart, you ever see those estates and you got the wall of pine trees that are like 60 feet high?
Yeah.
And you can't see through them? That's cypress. And
does cypress grow in Florida though?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You plant those. You plant those all along the border, and within 5 years you'll have a gate, a fence that you'll never get through.
The problem is though that when the hurricane comes and knocks the cypress trees into my house and wipes out my house, that's the problem.
No, they're thin. They're thin. They're like pipe cleaners. They bend in the wind. They won't come over.
No.
But a wall, we can build a wall. It just costs you a freaking fortune.
Yeah, I know. It's like building a house, right?
Bit more, because how much property you got?
Yeah, we got a couple acres. We got and I got the problem is I got the property I bought next to me for 3 acres. I want to put a wall just down the front. I don't need it on the sides. I just need it in the front. I don't want to see anyone.
I don't either, man. You'd love Mexico. Everybody's got a wall in front of their.
No, I don't, because everyone's gonna kidnap you if you don't have a wall around your house.
Yeah, you get robbed.
The problem is a lot of the Mexican guys are good at jumping over walls, right?
It's so funny. They don't want to build a wall at the border, but everybody's got a wall around their house.
That's right. I told you I used to train this guy. He was the biggest dairy distributor in Mexico, in Juarez, and they had a huge compound with the wall was like bigger than the wall Trump wants to build, I think. And they had like security cars and security houses on the property because kidnapping is such a huge thing, and I didn't realize it was that bad until I actually got down there. If you want to see a good movie on how bad that is, right? What's that Denzel Washington movie?
Oh yeah,
what's it called? Kidnapped?
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. I don't know.
No, it's something like. Yeah, I know the movie, but that was Mexico City.
Yeah, but it was great. It was great. It was exactly
Burning Man.
Burning Man. Yeah.
Burning Man. But kidnapping down there is extremely common. Guadalajara, Mexico City, anywhere where you've got the haves and the have-nots, and it's getting worse. It's much worse down there than it's ever been. But there's no building codes in Mexico.
Oh no, so you just build whatever you want.
Yeah, here in America, you can't build a wall higher than 6 feet.
Right.
There, you can build it 60 feet, and no one's going to say anything.
And it might just fall down too because there's no code building, there's no code inspectors or permits.
That shit falls down all the time. I am shocked that I drive down the street down there and think, how the fuck are those buildings still standing? There was a building in a famous upscale area called Andares in Zapopan in Guadalajara. Yeah. There's a whole tower, 40 stories, uninhabitable because it's leaning.
Oh, really? It's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Leaning Tower of Guadalajara.
It's probably like a landmark now, right?
You know, you drive around. The narcos are having a hell of a problem spending their money because they can't get it out of the country.
Oh,
so many restrictions on on banking, on what bank wires. Federal government's all up.
It's too easy to trace money nowadays. That's the problem. Yeah,
and they're all in cash. Yeah. So what are they going to do with all this cash? So they build buildings. You got them hiring these top upscale architects from Europe are coming over.
Oh, really?
There's the official bird of Mexico is the construction crane. They're everywhere. Everywhere there's a tower going up. Okay, and they're one more opulent and beautiful and
Really? So it's going to be like Dubai there pretty soon.
But they're all empty. They're all empty.
Oh, really?
They got these gorgeous, gorgeous places, and they're all freaking empty.
Why? Because no one wants to live there?
Who can afford it? I mean, you're talking Mexico, but they're just building them to blow their money. But you got these 30, 40-story buildings of, 2 and 3 level condos and penthouses are vacant.
You think at some point, because people always they'll always exploit a resource eventually. Do you think that could be like the new hot place to be, so to speak, down the road?
I'll tell you what, it's hard to convince people that it's okay to live in Mexico. There's a lot of there's 2 ways to look at it. If you're going to do business down there, you are going to be frustrated, crazed, out of your mind, that you're going to go nuts because working with them, it's another country. They do things their way and they think it's the right way, which is in many ways and times counter to the way we do things. But it's their country, and we're just a guest. So that'll frustrate the crap out of you. But if you're living in Mexico and you're making money, online or in the U.S. and and you can just take it out of the cash machine down there, like I did when I lived in Puerto Vallarta, that's the way you live. I mean, and living down there at that. If you're making dollars and spending pesos, you will have a wonderful life down there. but you got to stay away from the clubs. You got to not chase women. I mean, there's things that you got to do to stay out of the narcos' ways because they will kill you.
Right.
And although Americans are pretty safe down there, but it's getting to be where that's not so much the case anymore.
Wow.
So you got to be smart. You got to pay attention. But boy. You want to get a lot for your money. If you're earning dollars and spending pesos, you will live like royalty down there for very little money.
Well, you always said it. I don't know why you're always like, I don't know why bodybuilders just don't move down to Mexico. You got unlimited drugs down there. They're all legal. You could do the cost of living is nothing. If you have a contract in the U.S. with a company or you do an online coaching, it doesn't matter where you live. You can live like a king down there. You don't have to worry about getting arrested or nothing. It's really, I'm surprised someone hasn't started a little bodybuilding like Gold's Gym environmental, like place where just bodybuilders go and live and train there. And then they come to the U.S. and compete every year. I'm shocked that it hasn't happened, to be honest with you. Maybe social media made it such that you don't need to do that anymore. But it seems logical to me to save money,
I've always said it's bodybuilder's paradise, and you're close. You're just over the border.
Yeah.
I mean, Guadalajara is 1,000 miles south of Arizona. That's not in another world. That's really close. You go to the airport and take a plane. What does it matter what airport you leave from? You're still gonna fly. You still got to take your shoes off and go through security. It doesn't matter where you do that. But the cost of living, the weather. Forget about it. The weather in Guadalajara is the best in the entire world. Nowhere better than that.
Yeah.
So you got great weather. You got great gyms. You saw a picture of my gym.
Yeah, it was awesome.
monster. Okay, so you got great gyms, you got great fresh food with no pesticides, you got an unending labor force to cook for you, clean for you, shop for you, drive for you, garden for you, wash your car. I get my car washed every single day.
That's great.
I wanted to go out. I call the guy, Brad, get the car. I'm going to go out at 6 o'clock. You know, washed, filled up with gas, and pulled up to the front of the house, ready to go.
And what does it cost you to have someone do that like every day?
$60 a week, maybe, something
God.
like that.
Holy
you know,
mackerel. That's
almost
crazy.
embarrassing. You know? But you know, it's
maybe in your retirement you'll start a new bodybuilding mecca down there. You know.
Look, I tried. I lived there for 10 years, you know, on and off. I mean, I've tried to convince these people, these guys of this, and they just. Even when Kai Green was down there, he came to my gym. He goes, God, I didn't know this was like this down here.
Yeah.
You know, I would have come down here a long time ago.
You know what it is? You got to get like a core group of guys just to move there, and just you got to set up like a schmo castle there where you let them live for free, like Blackman should do. And then once a bunch of people are down there and doing videos and putting social media up from that place, then it becomes like it's like almost like Oxygen Gym. Build it and they will come type of thing.
Yeah, you know? But I mean that's all the way over in freaking Kuwait. You know what?
I know that's why I'm saying if you would have, you had the right idea. The problem was you actually had responsibilities. If you would have just stayed there like Blackman and schmoed out, you could have bought an apartment complex and you could have had bodybuilders living in there rent free. You know what I mean? And just promoting your whatever you had there, your gym and you know whatever you were doing there. You had to have some kind of a business model associated with it, obviously. And then you could have had a couple coaches coaching these guys, and then they could have, you know, if you would have had a few pros there winning big shows, you're the next Oxygen Gym, so to speak. You know, I'm sure Mexico's a lot more fun than Kuwait is, right?
Definitely a lot more fun. The strip club's right 2 doors down. But I think it's the third world country connotation that they.
Kuwait's not that safe either, you know. I mean, I guess it's safer, you know, because it's an American-friendly country. But you know, bodybuilders like to be in places where there's action. So you might get more people coming to there.
It was never a dull moment in Mexico. I'm telling you, if you want to live an exciting life, you can. If you want to live a low key life, you can. If you want to disappear, you can do that too.
There you go.
It's all open, you know, and it's really easy to live down there. Very easy to live down there.
Sounds exciting. Yeah, I would have loved to see your gym. Maybe one of these days I'll get down there.
Oh, you come down one time while I'm down there, and I'll show you around.
All right. Well, you know, I want to just send out. I know John and I both want to send out condolences to the Scott Milnes family and his loved ones and his friends. And the Canadian Moose will be missed, but not forgotten. And if anyone wants to contact him, I know that he had a Facebook page. I saw that. I noticed his girlfriend's been posting on Facebook all the updates on what's going on with Scott. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of a funeral. I would assume it's going to be taking place in Canada. So as we get details, I'll release those a little later today. I was going to do a little rant video on that, an update video on Scott anyway, and talk a little bit about my experiences with knowing him over the years. And yeah, it's funny because him and like Kovacs were like, they were like competing against each other, so to speak, for who was the biggest guy in Canada for a long time. You know, Kovacs came around first, then Scott did, and obviously Kovacs was bigger. But I know Scott and him were kind of friends at first, and then there was a little rivalry. But they were both, over 6 foot, over 300-pound guys, that were just monsters in their day and age. And so Scott will be missed for sure. John, I know you got a meeting, but it's after hours, so there's no formalities. We could just say, hey, c'est la vie, and hang up anytime we want. We'll be back next week with Greg Valentino. I think Palecci will be back. And then, of course, we have a special guest coming on who has bounced at some of the biggest clubs in Manhattan, knows all the bodybuilding gossip stories from those clubs. He's got some Monterazzo stories, Mike Quinn, Valentino stories, and a lot of others. So Craig Titus stories. You're going to want to see that next week. That'll be Monday at 1 we tape that show. For now, though, I got to go interview Mike Ashley, the Natural Wonder, the guy who won the Arnold Classic when they stripped Sean Ray of his title when he failed the drug test. What was that, back in 1991, I think, or 90? 90, right?
90.
Yeah.
It was the second one, wasn't it? The second Arnold?
It was either, I think it was the second one. You're right.
Yeah,
Gaspari won the first.
One, and then Sean Ray won the second, and then he failed his drug test.
Yeah, lost $60,000 for that too. Yeah. All right.
That killed him.
Oh, he's still talking about it to this day. Whenever I get him on the show,
I saw him have a meltdown because he put the wrong name on a $10 photo one time. Now, what am I going to do with it now?
Got to throw it out.
It's $10.
That's right. 60. He took it pretty well though, considering. I mean, Jay Cutler sued when they wanted to take his prize money away, and he won, right?
He won. I love Sean. He's a fixture in our industry. We would be less rich without him. So
I guess, yeah.
He serves his purpose.
You know what? I think anyone with a strong opinion is good for our industry because it sparks debate and it makes people talk about things, and I think that's what's important after all. It's about discussing topics. Just like we discussed today about health and how to keep yourself healthy. Look, bodybuilding should be a healthy sport. Just because we do things that are a little risky and maybe push the envelope at the elite level doesn't mean that you have to die from it. So be smart. Listen to shows like this about what we talk about your health. Don't ignore that going and getting checked out because you could wind up dead, and that's serious business. And we don't want to see anyone leave us before they absolutely must. So go to your doctor if you haven't gotten checked out recently. Get an echocardiogram, get your cardiac CT done, get your blood work done on a regular basis, get your colonoscopy. I'm making my appointment, and get your prostate checked, even if you don't like finger up your butt. Sorry, guys. It's better than, as John said, it's better than the metal instrument up your you-know-what. So I'm Dave Palumbo with John Romano. We'll see you next week.